I never thought that this would happen to me. I always considered myself a person who stands firmly on her own 2 feet and knows how to keep her distance. I despised women who get involved with married men and thought, how can you not respect yourself like that? And then I found myself in this role. We met by chance. It was a work project. I got a job at a new company, and he was one of the department heads there. His name was Andre, 10 years older than me, confident.com, with some kind of quiet charisma. He never imposed himself, did not flirt openly, but every word he said sounded as if it was addressed specifically to you. At first, I perceived him simply as an experienced colleague. He helped, prompted, could support in difficult times. Sometimes we stayed late after work, discussing projects. Everything seemed absolutely innocent. But one day I caught myself thinking that I was waiting for these meetings, that I was catching his gaze, that I want him to stay for at least one more minute. When I found out he was married, my heart sank painfully. Everything inside me screamed, stop. I tried to push away these feelings, hid behind irony, tried to communicate less, but the more I pushed away, the closer he became. One evening, we were sitting in the conference room. Everyone had long since left. I was tired. I couldn't finish the report. Andre silently came up, sat down next to me, took the sheets of paper in his hands and said, "You are too hard on yourself. Sometimes it is enough to just exhale." And I suddenly burst into tears, right there next to him. I had not allowed myself weakness for a long time, but his calmness broke all my walls. He did not hug me, did not do anything extra. He simply put his hand on the table next to mine so that our fingers barely touched each other. And in this touch, there was more than in all the words. We started texting. At first, it was dry, about work, then jokes, random photos, some phrases like good morning and good night. I understood these were no longer just colleagues. But I couldn't stop that when he first invited me to have coffee on the weekend. I agreed, although I knew I was taking a step into the abyss. We were sitting in a small cafe, talking about everything. He told me that he had been married for 12 years and had a son. I tried to joke that I was not the kind of woman with whom you could play secret dates. He smiled and answered, "I never thought I would find myself in this situation either. From that day on, something began that I can't even call a romance. We weren't a couple. We couldn't walk hand in hand down the street. Our meetings were rare, stolen, always with a glance back. Sometimes just for an hour between his affairs. But these hours were brighter than any days for me. I hated myself after each meeting. I swore it was the last time, and then I went to the phone again, waiting for his messages. I knew he had a family. I knew that somewhere at home his wife was waiting for him, who might even have a clue. This feeling was eating me up from the inside. I tried to convince myself that he was unhappy in his marriage and that I was his chance for a new life. Then I realized that maybe I was just an escape, his secret island, where he sailed when he was tired of reality. The worst thing was that I loved him. Really, truly. Not as an adventure. Not as a secret. I caught myself imagining us together, thinking about how we could live if it weren't for his wife, his son. One day I couldn't stand it and asked him directly, "Will you ever leave her?" He was silent for a long time, and then said, "I can't destroy a family. My son is sacred." Nodded, but everything inside me broke. After that, I tried to distance myself. I left his messages unanswered, put his number on the blacklist, but he always found a way to come back, either a work letter or a business call. And as soon as I heard his voice, I gave in again. I changed a lot during that period. Friends stopped recognizing me. I became withdrawn, refused to meet, lived only for these short moments with him. It was as if I had lost my taste for ordinary life. Sometimes I hated him for coming into my life, for not giving me the opportunity to love openly, Kostya for making me that very woman that I once despised. But at the same time, I understood I chose everything myself. The hardest moment came when I accidentally saw him with his family. We happened to be in the same shopping center. He was walking with his wife and son. He was laughing, telling me something. They looked happy. I stood in the crowd and looked at them, and my hands were shaking at that moment. I understood. He already has a life, a real one, and I am just a shadow of it. After that, I decided to put an end to it. I wrote him a long letter about how I love him, but I can't do this anymore, that I want to live a real life, not a stolen one. I didn't expect an answer, and he didn't answer. A few weeks passed. I slowly learned to breathe without him. I stopped checking my phone every minute, met up with friends again, walked the streets, listened to music. Sometimes my heart sank when I accidentally saw his name in documents at work, but I learned to let go. And yet sometimes I wonder what would have happened if he had decided, if he had chosen me. Would I have been happy? Or would it have ended in pain anyway? I don't know. I only know that this story has changed me. I have learned to understand that the heart does not always obey the mind. That love is not always happiness. Sometimes it is a test. Today, when I tell this story, there is still a mark inside me. Not a wound, but a scar. Sometimes it aches when I see couples on the street. Sometimes it reminds me that I can love, but I am no longer the woman who lives in stolen minutes. I choose to live differently, choose myself. And maybe another story awaits me ahead. A real one, not a shadow one.